Hey, this is a quick how-to on getting yourself up and running on the REIFlow Flows tool that I just created for version 1.02. So let's get into it. So you'll find the Flows tool at reiflow.com, Podio members dashboard, and then click on Flows, and you'll get a list of flows. Initially, I set up a test flow for you just to kind of give you an example on how exactly one goes together. We'll take a look at this. You can click on Edit, and then you can see the flow right here. So you have the details, which gives it the name, the description, the app that the flow is going to be triggered from, and then also the trigger type. So if there's a item created or updated or deleted, this flow will run based off of that. Now the next down here is where each step is. Every flow will have an action step that gets the item. This is the item that triggered the flow. And then we have step 2, which is a run if. This is optional. It won't be added for a new one, which I'll show you in a minute. But in this test example, I have a run if, so I'm saying that on a create trigger, this item has been created. If the marketing source equals website, then I want to run this trigger or this flow. If not, it doesn't get run. The next is the step where I'm creating a variable. I'm creating a variable due date because I want to set up the due date to be for the task to be a day after the date originated. So we have a variable type of date, value type, the value of what's in the date originated field in the leads app, and then modify type. We're going to add days to this date. We're going to add 1 day. Additionally, you can add months and years also. If you want to add weeks, you just add 7 days or 14. Next, I have another variable for address. This is just an example. I have text. It's a text field. As you can see, the modifier types aren't available, and the value we can put in this. What this is saying is in the apps, in the properties app, I want the address field and I want the formatted value. You can get this by hitting select, selecting the properties app, which will then populate the fields, and we can select the address field. Coming down, we have one more variable I've set, which is description. It's also a text type field, and the value is please call the property at property address formatted. So you can see here I concatenated this sentence with this value. That works. And finally, we have the task action, which is creating the task. So for the due date, I put in the variable due date. This is the field marker for the due date, the variable. You can get those by hitting select, variable, and then due date. So we have 3 variable type that we set, or 3 variables we created, and due date is the one we want. Click due date, add it, and it automatically puts it there. Next is the time field. This is time only, so it's formatted, and we put 12 p.m. We can change this to 1 if we like. And then we assign to. We want to assign this lead to anybody who's a member of the workspace. So in my workspace, the REIFlow worker bot and me are members. So we'll assign it to myself. Then we have a task subject. So we say call seller at the variable address and for test purposes. So I type this in, and then we can, to add something, we just hit select, say variable, so we'll just add the due date. Just to show you, click add, that's how you see how it adds it in there. Pretty neat. And finally, we have the task description, call seller of the house, var description, test 2. Again, this is just for testing purposes. Feel free to change, modify. You can go through this if you want. So that's the example one I give you. We can save this and then go back to the flows. Now to add a new flow, you can say add a new flow, click there. And now we get the blank flow editor, which by default, we get the flow details where we can enter in this information, the trigger types. We have the step one, which is getting the item from Podio that caused the trigger. And then we have the create task item. These can't be deleted since at this point the flow tool is only able to create task flows. In the future, it'll have greater flexibility, greater power, greater features. But for now, I've limited it to this just so we can work out the kinks and then we can move forward from there. So let's add test flow. This is a test. We want to trigger it on a apps lead, on an item update, and we can enable this. And now let's add a run if, because we want to make sure that it doesn't run every time the lead is updated, just one particular instance. So we can click on over here on the add action type. We have a variable or run if. Select run if. We can add only one run if to a flow. So as you can see, it defaults to being added after step one. You can't add it anywhere else because it must be the second step. So we'll add that in there. Now we have step two, run if. And we can say if the app, say the value of the motivation level equals, just say motivated. Oh, actually we'll go highly motivated. So now this flow should run only when the motivation level is updated to highly motivated. And now we can create the task if we want, or we can add a new variable. So we come over here, select the variable action type, which should be the only one left, and we want to add it after step two. Click add variable, and now we can add the due date. Call this a date type. And in the date type, you see these fields open up, and we have the option to add days, months, or years to whatever date value we put here. And this date value could be hard-coded, or we can select the date originated from the leads, or any other field in REIFlow. So let's say, where is it? Date originated. Select it, add it, so it pops it here. We click off this to get rid of it. And then we'll call it days. We'll say in 2 days, let's call this lead. So motivated, we want to call them back right away, but let's just call for 2 days for example purposes. So, okay, now we have a due date. Let's select the due date from the flow variables. Due date is the only one here. Select that. Enter a time, 1 p.m. I make all my calls in the afternoon. We'll say assign to myself, test subject, call this motivated lead. Call them now at, and then we can select the phone number from the contact. So we'll go to the contacts, well, that's contract, sorry, contacts app, and it'll give us the option to pick the phone number. And we'll use this. There we go. So now this flow is set up. Pretty straightforward. We run if the values change. This motivation level field changes to highly motivated. We get the due date from the date originated field. And we say we want to call this person in 2 days. And there's the due date. Time we're going to call them, assigned to me. Subject and the description. So we'll save this. Now we're good. We can go to flows. And now If we go to REIFlow and Podio and go into a lead and change something to highly motivated, we should see a task pop up. So let me demonstrate this. We'll go to REIFlow. Now let's see if I have a lead in here already. I do. It's a blank lead. No information's in here yet. So let's add some. Okay, I went ahead and added some information. 605 Brook Hollow Drive, Bobby Thomas, and a phone number. So, okay, so let's change the motivation level to highly motivated, and hopefully a task will be created. So we actually have two hooks on this. Highly motivated changes the stage to pursuing, which is a built-in REIFlow hook, or automation. And now we have that task right here that was created from right here. So there you go. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. If you have any issues or problems, let me know. Another nice feature is you can show the log. You see here that we'll have to refresh this. This was live. So now we refreshed it. You show log again, and now here we have. So this one was run. It was true, so we are running this. It shows you the variable that it created. This was the date originated, and now we created the task right here. Now you can see down below, as I was testing this before, I was running through some scenarios, and see the run if was false, and no other step got created. If there's actually a Podio error, you'll see a status of 400 or something else besides 200, usually 400, meaning that there was an issue. Say your date's in the wrong format, you'll get that 400 status, and the result and the message will show you the actual error. So I mean, that's how it goes. If you have any questions, again, feel free to post them on the site, and I hope you enjoy this feature. Thank you.